National polling has Kamala Harris slightly ahead of Donald Trump on the final stretch of the US presidential election campaign, but ultimately the result will come down to a handful of states. With 2 weeks left, the campaigns are sharpening their final pitches to voters. Cost of living, the economy and the war in the Middle East have dominated as key issues, but one that dominated last election that has since taken a bit of a back seat is climate change. With more on this, we're joined by ABC host and US political expert Julia Baird. Hi there, Julia. So why has climate change not been a big issue this time round?
It's a really interesting question because the change is so distinct, and it's not like there's been a change in popular opinion. You could say that on the Democratic side, there is the expectation that Kamala Harris will continue Joe Biden's policies. And there's also an argument that because there weren't any primaries, there weren't a series of candidates trying to prove to the base what they were going to do and how they were going to extend it. So she essentially, aside from speaking about green jobs, has been pretty quiet on the issue. Now, we know, of course, that previously she has opposed fracking, and she's been in Pennsylvania, and she's been on the back foot trying to say she would not touch fracking in what is now a very vital swing state.
What's Donald Trump been saying?
Well, what we do know is that he had a meeting, the Washington Post reported, with a bunch of executives from oil and gas companies, Chevron and some Exxon and some of the other giants, and he asked them to raise $1 billion for him because he said that in his time he would take out all the regulations that Joe Biden had made on the grounds of environment, and he would bring in no new ones. So there would be expansion of drilling offshore, up in the Arctic, and basically, if not quite free rein, then definitely an accelerator for the oil and gas companies. And we also now know that their lobbyists have put together things for him to sign on the very first day that he's in. He said to them, you will have that on the first day. So they've already drafted what they hope will happen on the first day, which is a significant expansion of oil and gas.
So is climate change a big issue for voters, for Americans?
It is. Look, it's not going to be the top one. And what's fascinating is how it's so often spoken about, and we can see this in this country as well, as oppositional to the economy, that climate change action is over here and the economy is over there, whereas actually they're inextricably linked. I mean, we can see it from what Joe Biden has done with the Inflation Reduction Act. At the end of the presidential debate in 2020, Joe Biden said that we needed to do something about climate change, that it was a moral imperative, that it was a massive crisis, and he would do something about it. Donald Trump turns to him and says, so then will you get rid of the oil and gas company, the oil industry? Is that what you're saying? And Biden said, yes, I would transition from the oil industry, yes. And Donald Trump said, are you listening to that, Pennsylvania? Can you hear that? Now, Biden did go on to win Pennsylvania, but when he got in, he was actually good to his promises. There was a Sierra Group analysis saying that he had done 300 actions or regulations designed to protect the environment in his time as president, which is more than any other administration in history, particularly around the Inflation Reduction Act, which is invested in green energy. There were some concessions to oil and gas there in the final stages of the negotiation, but overall, it's been a huge investment in renewables. So a lot of people are quite concerned about that being quickly wound back should Donald Trump be in office.